Hi everyone, Marty here with an installation guide for the 2019 version of Kali Linux. This guide will also work though with other versions of Kali Linux if you're using an older and possibly newer one. I'll be installing Kali Linux on VirtualBox rather than on my own computer, as I find it best as a virtual computer for testing. If you were to use it practically, it may be more beneficial for you to install it on a physical computer rather than as a virtual one, but that really depends on you and the situation. But right now it'll be easier on VirtualBox for what I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to assume you've already installed VirtualBox. If not, I'm going to put a link in the description of where you can download it from. If anyone is having any issues with VirtualBox though, leave a comment and I'll create a tutorial to help you install it and get it working. Now let's download the latest version of Kali Linux from the kali.org website, which I'll put a link in the description for. So on the Kali website, under the Downloads button, click Download Kali Linux. Here it will give you several options of which one you want to download. Only worry about the top two, the Kali Linux 64-bit and the 32-bit. So if your computer is a 64-bit computer, download the 64-bit version. If you only have a 32-bit computer or you're not sure, just download the 32-bit version. You can also download it via torrent or HTTP. I'll just use HTTP for this one, but feel free to download it whichever way you want. It will take a few minutes to download, so I'm going to skip through it, but once it's finished, I'll resume the video. Once Kali Linux has been downloaded, we want to open VirtualBox and set up a virtual computer. If you're opening VirtualBox for the first time, it's going to look just like I have it here. So we're going to create a new virtual computer now. So click the new button. We'll give the computer a name of whichever one you choose. Here you can choose the type of Linux it is. For this version, we're going to choose the latest version of Linux and either 32-bit or 64-bit, depending on the version you downloaded. If you want to change the location of where the virtual computer is saved, you can set that here, but I'm just going to leave it as the default. Next, let's set the RAM. I'll just leave it to 2 GB, which is 2048 megabytes for now. This is enough to start you off, but if you do want to get better performance out of it, I'd suggest using more. So if you can, put it up a little bit higher. Now let's create a virtual hard disk. As you can see, it recommends 8 GB. We'll be creating a lot more than that. Make sure Create a Virtual Hard Disk Now is checked. Leave the default selection as VDI. Leave Dynamically Allocated selected. This means that it will not immediately take up all the space on your physical hard drive. It will only take up as much as it requires at the time. You can choose where you want the virtual computer to save on your hard drive. I'll leave it as the default location. Let's set the disk size to 20 GB. Now that the virtual computer has been created, let's change a couple of the settings. Click the gear icon to access the settings. We do not have to change anything in the general area unless you want to rename the computer or if you're going to use some sort of encryption on your virtual computer. Under the System section, you can change the amount of RAM allocated, and if you need to, you could also change the order of which your virtual computer boots, just like you do on your normal computer in the BIOS. Here you can change the settings for the processor. You can leave it as 1 processor core, but as I have a quad core, I'll be allocating 2 cores to my virtual computer. Tick the box to enable PAE/NX. This just allows your virtual computer to access the processor faster and more directly. Under the display section, you can set the amount of video memory. It's fine as default, but if you're able to turn it right up, I'd suggest so, which is what I'll be doing. It's also a good idea to tick Enable 3D Acceleration. The storage section is where you add in extra hard drives and CD drives. As you can see here, the hard drive we created earlier is here. And if you have a look, its actual size is only about 2 megabytes, as it's not yet been written to, even though we set it to 20 gigabytes. Let's set our Kali installation DVD as the CD in the disk drive. See how the disk shows up in the drive now? Down the bottom, you can add other drives with these buttons. Okay, under network, leave it as NAT for this tutorial, as we won't need to use anything else. You can also add other things, such as USB devices or shared drives, but we won't need them at this stage. Okay, now that we've set up the virtual computer, let's start the computer and install Kali. The Kali installation menu has several options. You can run a live copy straight from the disk, run it from a USB, or just install it. For this, we're just going to do the graphical installation, as that'll be easier. And the installation will now load. Once you see this on the screen, select your language. Next, we want to choose the country we're in. And now the keyboard layout we are using. The installation will now start loading files, and this can take some time. Let's choose a name for our computer. As you'll see here, you can't use symbols. You can only choose from numbers and letters. So you can choose whatever you want here. Now let's set up a password. As I'm only using this for a tutorial, I'll use password as my password, but I'll suggest you use a stronger password than that for yours. It will now configure the clock settings from a network server on the internet using the location you gave it earlier. Okay, so now choose the state you live in. Next, it will load some more information. Now we'll choose to install Kali to the disk that we created earlier. There are several different options, but for now we'll just choose the first one, guided, use entire disk. Select the virtual disk we created, and don't worry, it will only give you options for virtual disks, it won't show your actual hard drive in here. Leave this option as the default option. As you can see, the disk has been set up with a primary drive, taking up most of the space and being formatted as ext4, while the other drive is 2.1 gigabytes and is a swap space. If you want me to explain more about ext4, leave a comment below and I'll do that for you. Now click yes to accept the changes we're going to make. Okay, so now the actual installation is going to start. I'll skip through most of this because it's going to take a while, so maybe pause the video so yours can catch up. Now the installation is completed, Kali wants to try and update. It can do this from the installation disk or from a network server. Leave this ticked as yes to download the updates from the internet, and that way you'll get the latest ones. If you need to use a proxy, put the information in here. Otherwise, if you don't know what that is, or you don't need to, just skip through this bit. Okay, so Kali is now updating. Now Kali will install the Grub bootloader, which is used to start Kali. Select yes. Choose the hard drive we created earlier. Okay, now Grub will finish installing. Now that Grub has finished installing, we can move on to the next step. Kali will now finish the last parts of installation, and finally, restart. you'll see this blue Kali screen. When you click into the VirtualBox, you'll see that it gives you this message. All it is saying is that when you click inside VirtualBox, your mouse and keyboard will get captured and only work inside of the virtual computer, not on the real computer itself. So to get back to your real computer, if you want to start doing something else, you need to press the right control key, and that will escape out of the virtual computer's control. Now that Kali is loaded, type in root for the username and enter the password you set earlier. Congratulations, you have now installed Kali Linux. You can check out all the different tools it has and start using them right away if you like. Although you will notice that the window is not full screen yet, so let's fix that by installing VirtualBox Guest Editions. Click on Devices and choose Install Guest Editions. I get an error because I've already mounted the disk. You will not get this error. Okay, so in Kali, click on the folder icon and locate the VBox disk here. Copy all the files into the Documents folder. And then we'll right click and open the terminal. If you type the ls command, you'll be able to see all the files and folders in this folder. So what we want to do, we want to change the permissions on one of the files we're going to run by typing in the chmod command. So type in chmod +x and then virtualbox linux editions.run. So that's the file we're going to change. Press enter. Okay, now let's run that VirtualBox Linux Editions file. Follow the installation process here and just answer yes and continue for everything. Once the installation is completed, restart your Kali Linux machine. As you can see, it will start up normally and then it will go into full screen. Okay, so to actually get full screen, the complete proper full screen, click on View and then click Full Screen. Now you can log in with the user details that we set up earlier. And that's it. You have now installed Kali Linux as a virtual computer and it's all set up ready to go. This video took me a lot of time to make, so if you enjoyed it, please leave a like, and if you want to see more IT and hacking videos, subscribe, as I have a lot of other videos I want to make. If you want to see something specific, leave a comment below.